What's up guys, Kyle at Fortune Off-Road. In this video, we're getting back into the Samurai. Time to do the front suspension. Oh. So if you haven't been following along, this is Samurai Build 2.0. I built up the Samurai on Samurai axles, basically up to 33s. Kind of maxed it out to where we wanted to go on some bigger obstacles. So we're rebuilding this thing. This is the front end. Now we're gonna do spring hangers, shackle hangers, and bolt that front axle up. And it's actually a lot of work. It's gonna be a bunch of time lapses. You can see I'm already getting dirty from it. We've got to get the Samurai axle out of the front and just start disconnecting all that stuff, cutting some stuff up, making room for the big stuff. And when I say big, I mean really big. We've got a Dana 60 going into the front of this thing. I gotta give you a heads up right now, this is gonna be a very unusual front end build. So what I'm trying to do is stay leaf spring all the way around. That way I can kind of get a sense for the wheelbase, wheel it without having to save up a bunch of money right now. And then as long as all of that goes well and I like where it's at, we'll eventually do some kind of link setup in the front. For now, we're gonna do leaf springs, and with a stretch this far out front, there's only a couple ways to do it. You have to either extend the frame out or use a really long shackle or a little bit of both. We're doing the kind of little bit of both one. I'm gonna have some huge arms sticking out and hanging the shackle off. It's gonna be weird. I'm just gonna tell you right now. In my head, it looks weird. In the back of the Samurai, it looks really different. We're going for it. Ton of 1-ton the Samurai. All right, made my own stubby bumper out of the Dr. Z DIY bumper, and you can see I just cut enough off to where I can put some 2x3 3/16 wall. It's going to kind of angle off like that. Of course, it'll be much longer, and then that's going to hold the shackle for this front leaf spring. Got my usual quality of welding. I was hoping these would be stellar because this is going to be a very visible part of the Samurai, but oh well. So down here, we have to come up with some weird cuts, and I'm going to try to box that all in. So we've got it tight into the frame, and then the frame kind of boxed in, and then underneath here, there's a support bar, and I'm going to try to weld as much of this front bumper to the Samurai frame as I can, because the suspension is going to be literally built off of this front bumper, and I need to make sure that all that additional leverage isn't going to rip it off, which it still might. Gotta keep grinding away. now we get to see what it looks like with the tires on finally, and there's still a lot of work to be done on this front suspension. This is where I'm going to call it for this video because got a lot of other stuff to work on, and there'll be another Samurai update soon. I know there's a long time between this one and the last one, and that was because just so many other projects going on. I've been working on this thing a little bit at a time. Wasn't enough to make a video out of it, so I decided to just put this all together. But this is the shot. If we get way back here, you can get a good sense of what the wheelbase looks like. Hard to tell in video. Front is probably about an inch higher than the back, which is no problem. I've got the shortest shackles I could get on there. They're 4-inch, same length as the front. If I go up to a 6-inch shackle on the back, that'll net me a 1-inch lift. It's gonna help me get a better perch angle on the axle, and it'll level it out. So yeah, without the tires on and everything, this front suspension looked really weird. Even with the tires on, it looks really weird, but it's really no different from somebody extending their frame out and then, you know, having a shackle go down, or the frame out and having a spring hanger. This one is a little bit lower in the front, and that's because of the arc. This center pin isn't going to be level or even close to level if you don't drop it down a little bit more in the front. It's the same issue I was running into with the back, if you remember that, but pretty simple setup. Box the front bumper into the frame. We've still got a little bit more gusseting to do, and then I will end up throwing another brace for, you know, lateral load from the bumper out to the side of here. Same on the other side, obviously, and everything's just mocked up right now. I mean, it's actually sitting on its own weight. The tires are bolted on. The U-bolts and spring plates are on, but they're not torqued down or anything. And, you know, all of my calculations worked out. You know, working on leaf springs is like the simplest way to do it, but it can still be a little tricky with the shackle angle. You don't want it to be too far forward because then they'll flip and go inverted on you, and you don't want it to be too far back because then they're just straight up and they're not going to allow a lot of flex. So I think this shackle angle is pretty good. As these springs wear in a little bit, they're going to go a little bit further forward, and then that little bit of angle will help this front end unload. Not a lot of room between the tire and the fender. We can't even turn without hitting the fender right now. At full turn, the tire will not hit the spring, which is great. Yeah. I mean, this thing's just a monster now, and this front suspension is super weird. I'm calling these things mandibles. I've never seen really anything like that on the front of a rig before. I've seen it on the back. I think it looks pretty cool. It's definitely unique. So, I mean, I'll be the only Samurai out there like this probably, but a lot of work to go on the Samurai. Wow, once I get this front end buttoned up, you know, I want to box in the spring hangers a little bit more. They're only like halfway welded on right now, and I don't want to do too much like that. You know, I don't want them to break off or bend the frame or anything. So a lot of little things like gusseting and boxing in. And then probably the next step is going to be to get our full hydraulic steering set up. And we're going to get this ram off of here, and we'll probably end up selling this to somebody. We've got full hydro coming, and my plan right now is to have a bar that just goes from that side, like outside of the spring, all the way to outside of this spring, you know, just a nice level bar right here. And I don't know, maybe it'll be up a little bit higher. We have this double shear bolt setup, which is key. I want to have the steering arm like right here. It's going to be really close to the spring, so the least amount of fatigue on everything. We're trying to make it really strong. We didn't just use bolts for these studs right here because it's coarse thread going into the housing, and it needs to be fine thread on top because the fine thread is so much stronger. And if you're going to shear these bolts off, that's how you do it. You know, the tire hits the spring or something and just pushes the spring one way or another, and you'll snap those right off. So I did have to weld on a 1/4-inch spacer down here because after I took the overload leaf out, the spring is just too short. The plate won't even catch it. Pinion angle doesn't look too bad. You can see the transfer case way up there. I think we're going to be just fine. These are all 1310 yokes, which is pretty crazy. I mean, it's a simple explanation why. It's available and it's small, works with Samurai stuff pretty well. And I want that fusible link for now because right now we're running tons, 40s, and a Samurai transfer case. Samurai transfer case is going to have a hard life. If this even works, it's going to break often, and I want to bust a U-joint before that happens. So anyways, guys, that's it for this video. Thanks for being patient with the Samurai stuff. I know a lot of subscribers on my channel subscribe because of the Samurai. When this thing is finished and on the trail, it's going to be Samurai action all the time. And now that it's going to be a lot more capable, hopefully, we're gonna be doing some crazier stuff. So keep watching, stay tuned. We're gonna get there. If you missed anything on the Samurai, check out the Samurai 2.0 playlist on the channel. It's got pretty much everything we've done for this phase of the build. If you wanna see it, the first phase, getting up into 33's typical Samurai stuff, we've just got the regular Samurai build playlist. Both of them have a ton of videos. Hopefully it'll be some entertainment for you guys. Thanks for checking this one out. See you in the next one.